Well, hello everyone, this is Liliana Rowena, and I am here today to do a review of the anime Shiki. So Shiki is a horror anime that came out fairly recently. I unfortunately did not have time to look up when or who directed it, although when I do anime reviews in the future, I would really love to. Side note, my cat is trying to sabotage my YouTube video. Now this one is not Tuttles, this is Zane. He lives at my house. Tuttles lives at Trinity Draco's house. But Zane is effectively trying to do the same thing, so I have to pet him, or else he is going to disrupt the entire video. So back to the subject of the anime Shiki. Shiki is a horror anime about this quiet little town called Sotoba in Japan, where all of its villagers are all happy and set in their ways, until an outsider comes and builds this huge Western-style castle. And I have to warn you, there will be spoilers, because I'm taking more of an analytical approach to how I'm reviewing this anime. I have to say, the house on the hill kind of gave me a very much of like a Dracula-esque thing, which I think is what they were going for. I really appreciated how these vampires were real vampires in this, and Shiki. They were real, they couldn't enter doors, they burned in the sun, they killed the people they fed on, and they actually managed to make vampires kind of creepy for me again, which no one had ever done. I can't say that this anime truly terrified me, however, as a story, it was very well written, and the person who made it understood the ideas behind storytelling very well. I personally loved this series. It was amazing to me. I loved how everything worked out. I loved all of the characters. Although there was many, all of them in a way were very compelling, and if there wasn't at least one character you could relate to, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. It did at times, because of this, get a little squirrely as to who the main character was. However, didn't seem to have one, and how it avoided that was just by successively killing them off. That seemed to be how they dealt with that. Like, as a focused character came into play, they were usually dead or turned into a vampire. So what I think works really well for this series is how they decided to blend the ideas of and customs of Japan with the Western legend of a vampire. I unfortunately wasn't able to look into what exactly an okiagari is, which is what the people in the town called it, and my guess is that's an actual Japanese creature. However, I really did enjoy how they blended them, but at times it could get a little clunky. Like towards the end when they decided to introduce the idea of Jinro and explain the guy who could stand in the sun. Because I remember I was watching the whole anime, like, okay, this all makes sense in the, okay, dude standing, why? Why is he not burning? Why is that one not burning? Is it because he's old? Is it because, why? And when they explained it, they called it a Jinro, which I think is another version of one of their creatures. However, they tried to call it a werewolf as well, except they didn't transform and also drank blood. So it kind of didn't translate quite right culturally there. I also liked how throughout the series, at the beginning, they set it up very clear, black and white, good and bad. And as it went on, they decided to try to make it less clear and blur the lines. However, right when they first tried to start doing this, it didn't work out so well, because they had already established so much that the Shiki, or vampires, were the bad guys, that when they tried to shift it to make it look like, hey, maybe they're not so bad, it didn't really work at first. All you kind of got was a, wow, the doctor went crazy. Because one of the characters, let me back up, Dr. Ozaki, who I really like and is kind of like the, why won't anyone listen to me kind of character, who ends up saving the village. However, he doesn't sleep for days. He ends up keeping his dead wife's body to see if she rises back up. And she does. However, instead of just staking her through the heart, he tries everything. And essentially just tortures her for hours until finally killing her. And Seishin, the monk, who I really like as well, comes in and is just like, help me clean this up. He's like, no, you're crazy, I'm leaving. However, it doesn't really go to show that humans are as bad as Shiki. It just shows that he needed more sleep, was kind of what I first got out of that. What did eventually make it work is when you have heard Tsunako, the vampire little girl's story. And I really love how they set this character up. So this character first is seen greeting the monk in a Western-style chapel. Before you're the viewer is very certain that that person is a vampire. However, before people in the town know what it is, she goes and builds this very strong relationship with him, and and it's very clear, in kind of like a father-daughter sort of way, that he really cares for her. However, they make it very, very under the table that Tsunako, in the end, is actually the head of the operation of the Shiki. By first setting her up as a sympathetic character, it made it easier for us to try to understand her later when the series tries to justify her actions. I don't necessarily think that it fully succeeded in its goal of justifying the Shiki. I think a good counterexample to what they tried to do would be Tokyo Ghoul, where from the get-go we have a human character who gets turned into a ghoul. So he understands both sides of the story, and we get a clear view of that these people are people too. Whereas with the Shiki, they have enough of a supernatural element, and they can be nasty enough where, from the get-go, where it's really hard to sympathize with them later. For many people. I personally kind of saw what they were going for, and I think just due to the type of person I am, was really able to sympathize greatly with the two main female Shiki that we saw the most. I was able to sympathize with Megumi Shimizu and Tsunako, which I think were set up well to be sympathetic. Whereas Tsunako is set up in more of a, I didn't want to be this way. I'm sorry, but I was given this second life, don't I have the right to live and to be happy? And I think in many ways that's fair enough, except for her to do that, she has to kill this entire village. And yeah, they might come back from the dead, but they're dead. I like how they set up Megumi's story as bookends, with her first being the girl who wants to go to the big city, wears strange clothes, doesn't look like she belongs in the village, and then she's the first victim when people come in, before they know anything that's happening. However, when she turns into a Shiki, she becomes one of the most ruthless, and I don't think I can forgive that as a character. However, her death scene, you can't help but feel sorry for her, in my opinion. It's set, and I love how they set it up. So in the first episode, if I remember correctly, she's walking down in one of her crazy outfits, and she gets splashed by a guy in a tractor. In the final hunt, when the whole town is trying to wipe out the Shiki, and she makes one last break for the big city, she ends up getting stopped, and her head is crushed by that same tractor, which is a terrible death, and then she's staked through the heart. However, her dying lines really spoke to me, because I can understand being like that, where she was just sitting there, well, she was standing there and yelling, "It's me, Megumi Shimizu! It's me! I'm the girl you laughed at for wearing strange clothes and said that I didn't fit in the village, and you were ashamed of yourself," or something like that. And her just going on about how they look at strange things and odd things strangely as they murder her. One can see it as putting corpses back in the ground, and one can see it as murder. I don't know where I sit. It kind of poses a big question for me, where some of these Shiki or Okiagari or vampires are very sympathetic. Like Toru. A character who's just so sweet and so nice, but he just can't control his hunger. While others are not at all. Such as Chizuru. who seduces men and then well, not sleeps with them, but I feel like that's the allegory they're going for here, and then sucks their blood and kills them. And she does this for fun, and she doesn't care. However, in their deaths, the Shiki become a lot more sympathetic, typically. However, it raises a big question for me of if I were turned into one of these things and still had my own consciousness and being, would I want someone to put me down? Truth be told, I don't know. If I was a zombie, I know I'd definitely not want to be around because there's no mind, no cognitive thinking there. However, a vampire's a different type of creature. A vampire has thoughts and feelings. At least that's what this show is going with. So, overall, I loved this show. I loved this series. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it. And I think that's all I have to say for now. So, bye-bye!